Hello and welcome back to Rule the Game. In this video I'm going to show you how to play Inori, a game by Mathieu Aubert and Théo Rivière. This is a game for 2 to 4 players, lasts about 40 minutes and it's recommended starting at age 10. As usual, I'll start by showing you how to win points, then I'll show you how to play the game, I'll give you some hints for your first game, and then I'm also going to show you how to set up the game. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. But now let's get started with Inori.
Rule the game.
In Inori, you're collecting victory points by collecting favor tokens and then trying to get them scored as much as you can. The game will be played on this board here, which is surrounded by the victory point tracker that you have here. In the 4 rounds that you're going to be playing, you can score points at the end of each round by having placed your figures here on fields that have these little reefs here. So at the end of the round, you're always going to get points. You're going to move your trackers here forward until the 4 rounds are played, which is when you've played a game with all these 6 different cards that are on the table. And once that's done, then everybody is going to go and check here for extra victory points that you're going to get from the big tree. Now, the way this is scored is that you're going to go from top to bottom, and you're going to check on the top field here, the color here is green, so everybody checks how many green tokens they have. The person who has the most green tokens wins the 10 victory point. The person who has the second most wins 5 victory points. If 2 or more players have the highest number of tokens in that color that we're scoring currently, then they will all get the higher number of victory points. But in that case, there is no second winner for the lower number of victory points that is shown on the field. Now, if 2 or more players are tied for second, then they all get the lower number of points here. So we'll first score the green ones, then we'll score the blue ones, of which I now have 4, which is probably a pretty good thing, so I might actually even win this one. Then as you can see, this field doesn't have any color because we didn't cover it during the game. I'll show you later how that's done. And in this case, nobody gets any of these points. Here red is 4 and 2, and as you can see, for the lowest field down here, even if there were color on here, you wouldn't actually get any victory points. So you get these points extra. You're going to move the tokens up here of the people who have actually won here some extra points. And whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game will win the game. If there's a tie, all the players that tie will share the win. Inori is played in 4 rounds. In each round, each player will be placing their little figures here on a field on the board here, either here on the cards, those fields up here, an empty field of course, there can't be another figure on it yet, or on an empty field over here on the tree. This is done in clockwise order until every player has placed all their figures that they have available at that moment. Depending on where you place your figure, you're going to get different resources or different victory points. So for example, up here on the cards, you'll see, for example, here, if I place my figure here on this spot, then I'll just get a red token, as it says over here. Now, of course, if I put it here on a field with 2, I'll get 2 tokens. Now, be aware that you might run out of favor tokens at some point, and if that's the case, you can't get more. The number is limited, so if they're gone, they're gone, but some people might actually pay with some of these favorite tokens again, so the supply might get restocked, and then you can get more of these tokens again. There are some fields also where you can get 2 tokens of any color, and you can even have different colors for both of these tokens. However, down below it also says that you would have to pay a red token to get whatever is up on top there. And you can only place your figure up here if you can actually pay a red token, which I currently can't because I don't have any red tokens. In some cases, you'll see here that you can get 2 tokens of a specific type, and in this case, it's the color that you have the least of. And the least can also be I have 0 of them, which in my case is several colors, so I can then choose which color I actually want, and I would take, for example, here the yellow ones. And then you have some fields that will let you actually get victory points. Those are the ones with the wreaths here. And up here, for example, should I place my figure here, then again you see I have to pay a gray token, which I have in this case. So I'll put it back in the supply so that I can place my figure up here. And now I'm going to get victory points per token that I have in the specific color that it shows here. I have 2 of those, so get 2 victory points, and you see I'm white. So I'm going to move my little victory tracker here by 2 points. Now this symbol here means that were I able to place my figure here, and I'm not because I don't have any red to pay for, then in that case I would actually get victory points for the tokens, the color of the tokens that I have most of. In my case, that would be purple. I have 3 of them, which means I would get 3 victory points if I could place my figure here. Similarly, over here you see that if you want to have the 2 green tokens, you would have to pay 1 of the tokens of the color that you have most of. In my case, that would be purple. If I placed my figure here, I pay a purple token to get 2 green tokens from the supply. And the last symbol that we have here is this wreath with the different colors. What that means is if I placed my figure here and I pay my yellow token here, then I would get victory points per different colors that I have. I have 4 colors, I will get 4 victory points by placing my figure there. So this is what happens if I place my figure here on one of those cards over here. Now, if I go and place my figure over here on the tree, I have these 6 options up here on the stem of the tree, but then I also have here these 3 options where if I place my figure here, I'll just pick up these 2 tokens right here and take them into my supply. Now these are not going to get refilled. They're only going to get filled at the beginning of the game. So in case you pick those up and they're gone, then they're gone and nobody can have them anymore afterwards. For the fields here on the trunk, different things may happen. One, if you're going up to the top 2 up here, then you would actually have to pay a token, as you can see here. It shows it here, but also here. I would have to pay a green one so that I can then get 2 tokens of the color that I desire, or of 2 different colors. Now if I decide to place my figure here on a field that doesn't really have an altar yet, the altar is this little tile that has a color, what I would have to do now is I can select one of the colors that's still remaining, and I can place that color right here. In this case, again, you'll see it's the side that has here the token that has to be paid. So if I placed my figure here and I pay my yellow, I will get 5 victory points on the tracker right up here. And as you can see, of course, there are only 3 of these altar colors left for the other 3 fields that you have available now. Maybe to quickly show you what the other fields are doing, if you're going to place your figure here and you place the color here, then you'll get one of those rune tokens here. You can of course look at it, and I'll get to those later. And then you also get 1 token of the color that it says over here, a blue one. Here you will get victory points for the number of tokens that you have in the color that you're going to place here. Down here you're going to get 3 tokens of the color that is placed here. And over here you're going to get 1 token of this color, purple, but you're also going to get these 2 figures. Now what are you going to do with these 2 figures? These 2 figures are going to be placed as placeholders on these cards over here. They also, like any other figure, have to go on an empty field, but you place them wherever you feel like you want to place them. It doesn't really matter. You don't even have to pay the costs for the fields where you place them, but you also don't get any benefits from them. They're just there as a placeholder, and you'll see right afterwards why placeholders might sometimes be a good thing. Now in case of the rune tokens, whenever you take one, you look at it, and then you place it in front of you face down. Now every time it's your turn, you can play as many of these rune tokens as you want to. Some of them don't really have many abilities. Those are the ones, like these here, that just show you different tokens. Now this counts as if you had real tokens of this color. So if you turn it face up so that everybody can see it, and you're actually going to get scored on green, then if this is face up, you're going to get 2 points for these green tokens that you have. You could technically also use it to pay in green tokens, but for this you have to know that you won't be able to exchange any of these rune tokens by the favor tokens. So if you want to pay just one green token, you would actually have to submit both this whole rune token, so the 2 that you have on there, and they would both be gone even though you just paid 1. Now this little rune token you can only play before your turn, because what it means is that now you're going to be allowed to place your figure on any field where there's already a different figure. That's the only way you can place 2 figures in one field. And this rune token here is also played before you place your figure. And what this one does is that you can take somebody else's figure and either remove it from a purple field to any other field on a different card, or you can take it from somewhere else and put it onto a purple card. Now let's say this is the end of round 2. As you can see, we're playing with 3 players. And you see that it's round 2 because you have this card up here already. Round 1 is played just with these 3 cards. Round 2 has this one. Round 3 has this one here too. And round 4 will have this card also. As you can see, I filled up all the different fields with different figures. So all players have played all of the figures that they have available. And now we go into scoring at the end of a round. And for this, we're going to start wherever we want to. Usually we start with the cards. And we're going to first check of these cards, are all the fields up here filled with figures? And in this case, they are, as you can see, because even this neutral figure here that we pick from over here counts as a figure. So all of the fields here are filled. And what happens then is that every player who has at least one figure on this card will get victory points, 1 victory point for each of their green tokens that they have. So since I'm white here, I will get 3 victory points for being on this card here. I'll add another 3. We're not counting the others because I don't know what actually they have, but technically black would also get some victory points here. I move their token up. Every player then takes back their figures, and the neutral one goes right back here for later for the next round. And then we replace this card here by another green card. So when we can fill a card, we replace it by whatever it says up here. So we'll take a random green card and we place it right here, while this card that was here before goes on the discard pile. Up here it's the same thing. We have a filled card. We have here a neutral token that goes here. Then brown has 2 tokens on here, two figures on here. Now, as I said before, it's at least 1 figure that you need. It doesn't actually help you to have 2 figures on a card, other than that the card's now filled. So the brown player now gets 1 victory point per red token that they have. Not 2 victory points, just 1. And then again, as before, because it was filled, we're going to replace the red card by another red card randomly from the deck over here. Now up here, as you can see, we couldn't really fill this. In that case, nobody gets any points. And so we return the 2 figures. And now what happens is we're going to not replace this card with the yellow because it wasn't full. We're going to replace it with a purple card. Again, this gets discarded, and we'll take a random purple card to fill the field again. Now this one over here is called a seasonal card. And in the case of seasonal cards, as you can see, if the card were fully filled, you would get victory points blue for all the blue tokens that you have. And then you would replace it with a blue card. But if it's not filled like it is right now, you still get, or all the 3 players here that have at least 1 player on here or 1 figure on here, they will get 1 victory point per green color. And we will then replace this card with a green card. And so what we do here is, again, everybody actually gets victory points. So everybody checks how many green they have, I have 3, so I'm going to move here my token here by 3. And then everybody gets their figures back. This goes on a discard pile and we'll replace it by a green card. We'll also return all the figures over here on the tree. So everybody gets their figures back. And the last thing we do is we prepare for the next round by placing a seasonal card here on the next field. And the way this is done is that the person who has the least number of victory points will get to pick 2 cards from the deck with the seasonal cards. They'll get to look at those cards here. They'll decide which one they actually like. They discard the other card and then they place that card here. And everybody gets 1 additional figure that was lying on this field before. And now we're ready to go into the third round, which is led by the person again who has the least number of points, who actually also just picked this card. And so you play round 3 the same way. Everybody plays their figure in turns, clockwise order, until everybody has played them. You score. You'll place another seasonal card on the last field. You play another round until everybody has played figures. You score again. And then, instead of going through the whole motion again of cleaning up, you're actually just going to count the points that they get from all the cards in that round and the last round. And then you get these extra points that I mentioned in the game scoring part of the video, where you go through the tree and give everybody points, depending on who has the majority of these colors here, and then they get these points over here. In a 2-player game, only the person who has the most tokens of one color will actually get these points, and the second most will actually not be given to anybody. And here are some hints for the first game. I suggest that at the very beginning, you focus on actually getting a bunch of favorite tokens here, because you're going to need them for the rest of the game. They're going to give you victory points. They're going to be needed to pay so that you can get on good fields to get better tokens, get more scores, and so on. You don't necessarily have to get any score in the first round, because even if you get scored in the first round, you're only going to get 2-3 points. That's all you're going to have. And if you get scored later, when you've actually collected a lot more favorite tokens, you can get up to 7 points and so on if you really have a really high stack. It's also not of a disadvantage to actually be behind in round 1 and round 2, because that lets you take the seasonal cards and place the new seasonal cards, which can then be in your favor, because you might have collected something that wasn't really helpful in the beginning, but now it gets much more helpful towards the end of the game. Because you have to remember that if cards are not full at the end of a round, they're going to get replaced by a different color. And so that's why if you have a lot of purple, for example, you're going to try to get this card filled, because if you get it filled, you're going to get another purple card. And it's very likely that another purple card also has here another symbol here where you get victory points for purple. So you can always get more points. And for this, you might have to get the neutral figures here from the tree to make sure that your card is actually full. Also, playing on the tree in the beginning is actually not a disadvantage. It can be an advantage. For one, you get 2 tokens, which are otherwise not so easy to get on the cards that are on the board. And secondly, or here you get even 3, but secondly, you can also try to figure out which color do you want to have all the way on top, so that later on you can actually be the one who has the most of them and get the extra victory points here from the tree. That can be rather decisive, but only if you can keep up with all the other players beforehand, and then you can make the extra jump later on at the end of the game by getting these extra points. Should you decide at the very beginning that you're going to go down here and pick up the 3 tokens that are for sale here, then that is cool, because you actually get 3 tokens of color red, for example. But at the end of the game, red is not going to be valuable at all, because red's here at the bottom where you don't actually even get any victory points if you have most of them. So that might not be the way to go. So it's a balance between trying to pile up a good amount of tokens, but also getting victory points, especially towards round 3 and 4 with the tokens that you have, to get very far on the victory point tracker, and then finally also get these extra bonus points that you get from the tree. Don't try to get all the colors. You just have to focus on maybe 3-4 colors at the most, because you can't get all the different colors and get many of them, but you're going to need a lot of them to get a lot of victory points. And that's Inori. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe. And up next, I'm going to show you how to set up the game. To set up the game, you take the board, you place it in the middle of your table. You then take the cards of each color, you'll shuffle them and place them next to the board. You'll also take these cards with a 1 wave, 2 waves, or 3 waves, and you'll shuffle them also, and you put them also aside. And then, depending on how many players you are, you'll take a random card that has your number of players on it, and you're going to place the one with the 1 wave here on the 1 wave symbol. Same here for the one with the 2 waves, and last but not least, also here the one for the one with the 3 waves. You'll place the 2 neutral figures here on the symbols here on the tree. You then take 2 tokens of this color here that you have on the bottom of these cards here. So 2 green ones, you place them here, 2 red ones that go here, and 2 purple ones that go here. You place the altars on the side. You take the victory point trackers of each player. You place them up here in the corner on 0. Every player takes all of their figures that are available for the game, and then you also have here your markers so that you remember what color you are. And then every player takes one of their figures and places here in this field, on this and that field. In the case of a 4-player game, you will not place any figures up on the field up here, up on top. As you can see, that's only for 2 and 3 players up here. Then you shuffle here the rune tokens, you also put them aside. You pile up all the different favorite tokens here so that everybody can reach them. And now we're actually already ready to go.